Well, we have an important holiday coming up, in case anybody missed that. I don't know where you've been, but it's actually one of my favorites if I can get beneath the busyness and all the stuff that you often end up doing. If I can get to the heart of it, it's really maybe the coolest holiday. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about gratitude and joy, and we'll do a reflection together that'll highlight that, I hope. So this is from Mahagosananda. If we cannot be happy in spite of our difficulties, what good is our spiritual practice? If we cannot be happy in spite of our difficulties, what good is our spiritual practice? Interesting question. But this is where what I'd call a bona fide spiritual practice leads. It's happiness beyond conditions. You get born, you find yourself here on this planet, and you only have limited control of conditions. You have some control, but it's pretty limited. Some of the big stuff like old age, sickness, death, loss, not so much. We just don't have so much control there. And another big area is how much control do we have over the thoughts, the speech, and the actions of other people? Like zero. And so as we gather with our families and friends, don't forget that. You might have been trying to exert those controls for decades now, and, where did that go? So given that that's the way it is, that's what we got when we got born, limited control, spiritual practice kind of helps us explore other avenues for happiness, for deeper understanding, for wisdom, other than just trying to control everything. Okay? And an important avenue in a spiritual practice is that of gratitude. If you have a strong strain of or vein of gratitude in you, you know how it can kind of, in a way, power up happiness and contentment. And all of us are probably on some kind of scale of how much gratitude we feel, or how often our minds and hearts light on what we're grateful for. But it's interesting, if gratitude can really be cultivated to a degree that has some juice in it, some power, it can almost overwhelm whatever suffering might be going on, whatever unsatisfactoriness is happening in your life or around you. It's that powerful if you think about it. It's not a weak energy, gratitude. You probably heard that phrase that gratitude is riches and complaint is poverty. That sense of scarcity. And we know what it's like when we're in one of those funky complaining modes. We're kind of tight and toxic and whiny and, it's not pleasant. It doesn't lead to joy. This is from Meister Eckhart, the Christian mystic. If the only prayer you say in your life is thank you, that would suffice. The only prayer you say in your life is thank you, that would suffice. And when I give some guided instructions in the beginning of meditation, I just about always mention reflecting on gratitude. What are we grateful for? Counting our blessings, so to speak. You know? And there's a reason for that. And there was a reason that the Buddha talked about that. He had 3 methods, and I've mentioned them here before, for gladdening the heart-mind. And one of them was just reflecting on what you're grateful for. There's a brightening that happens internally when we do that. It's hard to experience gratitude and be in a funk. We can kind of work at it, but it's really hard. Most of the time, if we're grateful for something, there's just a brightening. The kind of the phenomenological field kind of lifts a little bit, you know. So he encouraged his students to, okay, consider what you're grateful for. It will brighten you, and it will allow you to go deeper in your meditation. It was kind of maybe one of his backdoor instructions. If I can get them to consider in certain ways things that will brighten their internal world, they're going to be able to sit and train their hearts and minds more deeply, and out of that, deeper understandings will come, a more powerful heart will come. All part of the practice. He also had 2 other methods for brightening or gladdening the heart-mind. One was reflecting on your generous acts. How did you reach out? How did you get out of yourself? And even if it's the smallest thing, to reflect on that. Holding a door for somebody. Allowing somebody to cut in the line in traffic because everybody's going to the supermarket this week to buy stuff, you know. Whatever it might be. Reflecting on our generous acts. And there's that old story of the Indian king. They never have these stories about American senators or politicians, but an Indian king, and throughout his life he had his scribe write down all his acts of generosity. And on his deathbed, he had them read back. You know, all those times that he extended himself. So it's pretty sweet to think of that. And it actually can be a fun exercise, those of you who like journaling. I did it periodically at different times over the years. And what I found was that if I was keeping a little journal of generous acts, reaching outside myself, I would do more of them. You know, it was like a motivational force. And there's that whole brightening that happens there. And the third one that he talked to his students about was just reflect on the qualities of what it's like to be a Buddha. What are the imagined qualities if you are a Buddha? Or if there is a Buddha, you know, that fabulous, compassionate heart that really is not judgmental and can be in the face of unlimited suffering and be there and expansive. And the wisdom that understands the causes of suffering, the causes of happiness, that understands the flow of nature. So, gladdening the heart-mind, part of the instructions of the Buddha. And Buddhist monks today, they begin their day with a chant of gratitude, you know, for blessings of their life. Native American elders, whenever a ceremony has begun, if you've ever done sweat lodges or you know, some of the ceremonial stuff, there's always grateful prayers to Mother Earth, Father Sky, to the 4 directions, you know, to the animals, plants, and minerals that are all part of this web of life that support us. There's always that kind of opening of gratitude. And in some of the forms of Tibetan Buddhism, the monks and nuns, they even offer prayers of gratitude for the suffering that they've been given. And it's, grant that I might have enough suffering to awaken in the deepest possible compassion and wisdom. Grant that I might have enough suffering to awaken in the deepest possible compassion and wisdom. So in a sense, may whatever arises serve to awaken. Whatever it is. So the deep aim of a spiritual life, a spiritual practice, is to awaken a joyful freedom. That's it. And to awaken a benevolent and compassionate heart in spite of whatever's going on, in spite of it. In spite of the news, whatever political direction things are going, in spite of whatever the balance is in our bank account, in spite of whatever the state of our particular relationship is that's important to us, regardless of conditions. This is from Rabbi Harold Kushner. Can you see the holiness in those things you take for granted? A paved road or a washing machine? If you concentrate on finding what is good in every situation, you will discover that your life will suddenly be filled with gratitude, a feeling that nurtures the soul. You could say in a way that gratitude is confidence in life itself. It's not sentimental. It's not jealous. It's not judgmental. Gratitude does not have envy, or gratitude does not compare. It's often pretty pure in terms of the complexity of emotions. And gratitude has a respect for this mystery that we've landed in. It supports the awe of the mystery of this life. All the unanswerable questions, the largeness of it, the largeness of this universe, the smallness of the subatomic world. How did we land here? What is aliveness? A gratitude can support that mystery. So we can cultivate it. And as it gathers some power, its natural companion is joy. It just is. They go hand in hand. So let's do a reflection. A little Thanksgiving week reflection, so to speak. Get to the heart of it. So just be in a comfortable position. You might close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths. Allow the body to be as relaxed as it can be right now. Exhaling away any accumulated tension. And we'll begin this practice of gratitude by just reflecting and feeling how year after year you've cared for your own life the best that you could with what you had available. So just reflecting on how you've cared for yourself without a lot of judgment. Just, you're still alive. Here you are. Certainly, we probably are not perfect in our care, but hey, we're all here. So now let yourself begin to acknowledge all that has supported you in this care. So as I say these phrases, just let them roll through, reflect on them. With gratitude, I remember the people, the animals, plants, insects, creatures of the sky and sea, the air, water, fire, and earth, all whose joyful exertion blesses my life every day. With gratitude, I remember the people, the animals, the plants, insects, creatures of the sky and sea, air and water, the fire and earth, all whose joyful exertion blesses my life every day. And with gratitude, I remember the care and labor of 1,000 generations of elders and ancestors who came before me. With gratitude, I remember the care and labor of 1,000 generations of elders and ancestors who came before me, whose decisions and efforts made it possible for me to have a life. That chain could have been broken anywhere along the way, and it wasn't. I offer my gratitude for the safety and well-being I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the blessing of this earth I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the measure of health I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the family and friends I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the community I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the teachings and lessons I have been given. All those who have taught us, right up from potty training on up. All the support we've been given. So I offer my gratitude for the life I have been given. This rare and precious life. I offer my gratitude for this life. And just as we're grateful for our blessings, we can be grateful, we can learn to be grateful for the blessings bestowed on others. So continue to breathe gently, bringing the breath through the heart. And bring someone to mind who you care about. It's someone who it's easy to have joy for. It might be easy to have joy for their success. Bring a clear vision, the best you're able, or a felt sense of what it's like to be near them. And feel the natural joy that you feel for their well-being, for their happiness and success. And with each breath, offer them your heartfelt wishes. May you be joyful. May your happiness increase. May you not be separated from greater happiness. May your good fortune and the causes for your joy and happiness increase. And so as you feel this kind of natural care, this natural extension, this gratitude for the happiness of this loved one, this can be extended. The practice begins with the easy, the more obvious people in our life, or our pets. And then, is it possible to extend those wishes for joy and happiness to maybe people that are neutral in our life, that we might overlook or take for granted? And then is it possible to extend those wishes to someone who might annoy us a little bit? And then finally to someone who might be difficult. So it's a lifetime of practice. And every time we exercise that muscle, we're building strength and power. And so, I always like to reflect on how I can increase the odds of my own happiness if I can actually take joy in someone else's happiness. It's a pretty big jump. It goes from 1, myself, to like 7 billion. So, but it's not easy. We get stuck sometimes. Our neighbor wins the lottery. How happy do we get, you know? Can we really feel it, or is it like, damn, they don't deserve that? This is from Abraham Maslow. Some people have a wonderful capacity to appreciate again and again, freshly and naively, the basic goods of life with awe, pleasure, wonder, and even ecstasy. In an old Chinese proverb, when eating bamboo sprouts, remember the man who planted them. And this from the Buddha. These two people are hard to find in the world. Which two? The one who is first to do a kindness, and the one who is grateful and thankful for a kindness done. The one who is first to do a kindness, and the one who is grateful and thankful for a kindness done. certainly this world needs as much of that as can be mustered. And really, expressions of kindness and gratitude is very natural. And it happens spontaneously all the time. But they also, those energies also get blocked by our fear, our anxieties, our busyness. We just don't go there. We're constantly falling into the future, working our calendar, so to speak. But when we come across people that when we're around them, if we come across somebody who consistently and reflexively is kind and full of gratitude, it feels great to be around that person. They create like a field that when we're in it, it's just wonderful. And we all know people like that. We don't have to say, oh, well, the Dalai Lama's one, or these famous, holy people. We all know people like that have that inclination, or they've cultivated it somehow. And this practice cultivates this in you. I mean, these types of people are treasured people when we find them. And we're creating these treasures in ourselves when we practice, when we gladden the heart-mind over and over. I don't know if I have time enough to do the whole section I want, but there's a monk in Southern California, Thanissaro Bhikkhu, also known as Tanjep, and he names three aspects of heartfelt gratitude, kind of like parsing out what they are. Number one, you've actually benefited from another person's actions. This is the qualities of heartfelt gratitude. You've actually benefited. Number two, you trust the motives behind those actions. Kind of gets a little deeper into the ease of accepting. And third, you sense that the other person had to go out of his or her way to provide that benefit. Some of these are kind of obvious. I mean, nobody wants... You don't want the kind of help that's not helpful. And when you give help, it has to be offered in a way that's respectful and has empathy for where the other person is at. And nobody likes to receive a gift where we feel there's some calculation behind it. There's some other motive. But it's easier to accept kindness if we've exercised it, because we have an internal reference point for the kindness. We're doing it. We know that at times it's it just appears, happens, and it's clean. We know that that's a possibility. We don't have to be suspect of all the motives or possible negative motives if we're in the habit of exercising kindness. It all flows a little easier. And when you're on the receiving end of when somebody really reaches out to you and they're sacrificing their time or their energy for you, it's almost like you incur a kind of obligation or a debt to repay the other person's trust in some way. I remember when I was a freshman in college. In high school, I didn't study much. And I was from New Jersey, and I went to a college in Florida, and it was like, here it is. It's paradise, playtime. It's also the time of the Vietnam War, where if you didn't matriculate your credits well enough, you were then inducted into the service. So my first semester, I was having the best time of my life. It was fun in the sun and beaches and everything, and And I wasn't paying attention. But a particular professor was, my history professor. I had flunked the midterm. There was only 2 grades, the midterm and the final. I already had an F on the midterm. He took me aside one afternoon, and he had done research in my other classes, found out what else I was taking, where I was at, and he showed me this attention and care and helped me, you know. He suggested some study methods, and he also kind of clued me into what would be on the final in his history exam. So at least I could pass that. And so I survived and started making my way, learning the culture. But I'll never, ever forget that. And how busy it is to be a professor and all the stuff you have to do to actually single out some bozo in your class that maybe you think has some potential but isn't exercising any of it, and then going to bat for that person and helping them. So when we experience something like that, there can be the growth of a desire to kind of spread that around. To prove ourselves worthy of the attention and care that we've got. And I want to end tonight with a story, and maybe some of you have heard it. It's a true story. So just settle back for a couple minutes of story time. This is an act of kindness that befell a British writer, Bernard Hare, in 1982. And it changed his life profoundly. At the time he was a student living just north of London. And he tells this story. He works with young people a lot, and he's a writer and does a bunch of things. He uses this story to help inspire troubled young people. And so here's his story in his words. The police called at my student hovel early evening, but I didn't answer as I thought they'd come to evict me. I hadn't paid my rent in months. But then I got to thinking, my mom hadn't been too good, and what if it was something about her? We had no phone in the hovel, and mobiles hadn't been invented yet, so I had to nip down to the phone box. I rang home to Leeds to find my mother was in the hospital and not expected to survive the night. Get home, son, my dad said. I got to the railway station to find I'd missed the last train. A train was going as far as Peterborough, but I would miss the connecting Leeds train by 20 minutes. I bought a ticket home and got on anyway. I was a struggling student. I didn't have the money for a taxi the whole way, but I had a screwdriver in my pocket and a bunch of skeleton keys. I was so desperate to get home that I planned to nick a car in Peterborough, hitchhike, steal some money, something, anything. I just knew from my dad's tone of voice that my mother was going to die that night, and I intended to get home if it killed me. Tickets, please, I heard as I stared blankly out of the window at the passing darkness. I fumbled for my ticket and gave it to the guard when he approached. He stamped it, and then he just stood there looking at me. I'd been crying, had red eyes, and must have looked a fright. You okay? He asked. Of course I'm okay, I said. Why wouldn't I be? And what's it got to do with you in any case? You look awful, he said. Is there anything I can do? You could get lost and mind your own business, I said. That'd be a big help. I wasn't in the mood for talking. He was only a little bloke, and he must have read the danger signals in my body language and tone of voice, but he sat down opposite me anyway and continued to engage me. Hey, if there's a problem, I'm here to help. That's what I'm paid for. I was a big bloke in my prime, so I thought for a second about physically sending him on his way, but somehow it didn't seem appropriate. He wasn't really doing much wrong. I was going through all the stages of grief at once. Denial, anger, guilt, withdrawal, everything but acceptance. I was a bubbling cauldron of emotion, and he had placed himself in my line of fire. The only other thing I could think of to get rid of him was to tell him my story. Look, my mom's in the hospital dying. She won't survive the night. I'm going to miss the connection to Leeds at Peterborough, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get home. It's tonight or never. I won't get another chance. I'm a bit upset. I don't really feel like talking. I'd be grateful if you'd leave me alone, okay? Okay, he said, finally getting up. Sorry to hear that, son. I'll leave you alone. Hope you make it home in time. Then he wandered off down the carriage, back the way he came. I continued to look out the window at the dark. 10 minutes later, he was back at the side of my table. Oh no, I thought, here we go again. This time I really am going to rag him down the train. He touched my arm. Listen, when we get to Peterborough, shoot straight over to platform 1 as quick as you like. The Leeds train will be there. I looked at him dumbfounded. It wasn't really registering. Come again, I said stupidly. What do you mean? Is it late or something? No, it isn't late, he said, defensively, as if he really cared whether trains were late or not. No, I've just radioed Peterborough. They're going to hold the train up for you. As soon as you get on, it goes. Everyone will be complaining about how late it is, but let's not worry about that on this occasion. You'll get home, and that's the main thing. Good luck, and God bless. Then he was off down the train again. Tickets, please. Any more tickets now? And suddenly I realized what a top-class, fully-fledged jerk I was, and chased him down the train. I wanted to give him all the money from my wallet, my driver's license, my keys, but I knew he would be offended. I caught up to him and grabbed his arm. I just wanted to. I was suddenly speechless. It's okay, he said. It's not a problem. He had a warm smile on his face and true compassion in his eyes. He was a good man for its own sake and required nothing in return. I wish I had some way to thank you, I said. I appreciate what you've done. Not a problem, he said again. If you feel the need to thank me, the next time you see someone in trouble, you help them out. That will pay me back amply. Tell them to pay you back the same way, and soon the world will be a better place. I was at my mother's side when she died in the early hours of the morning. Even now, I can't think of her without remembering the good conductor on that late-night train to Peterborough. And to this day, I won't hear a bad word said about British Rail. My meeting with the good conductor changed me from a selfish, potentially violent hedonist into a decent human being, but it took time. I've paid him back 1,000 times since then. I tell the young people I work with, and I'll keep doing so till the day I die, you don't owe me nothing, nothing at all. And if you think you do, I'd give you the same advice the good conductor gave me. Pass it down the line. So may you all have a very thankful Thanksgiving.